Okay, so I figured we'd try something new, and we are going to vibe code a report where it sends you emails on a daily basis depending on the conditions of the report. So we might start off with something easier and then work our way up to something more advanced, but this is something I've used before and it's really helpful in my day-to-day job. So let me show you what I mean, where you can take a SQL query, you can normally just run it yourself locally on your machine and pull up the report. But if you have a lot of queries that you are running on a daily basis that you are trying to look for a single condition, and if you find any records in this condition, let's say for example, you need to work that account or work that record. For some reason, if you see records in the report, you need to do something about it, right? So let's say, for example, we're looking at this SQL query, and let's say this is a report that you have where every day you're going in and running this, and you are having to take any records, if there are any, and there's 10 here because I'm purposely selecting 10. Let's say that you are running this report daily, and anything that shows up in this report, you need to work. So you go and pull the loan key, you go and open it up and do something with it, right? So if you have a lot of those, maybe if you have one, it's pretty easy to do. But if you have a lot, then it helps to have some kind of automation. And if you're like me, you prefer emails to tell you, hey, this report ran something, it found some records, go do something with those records. So that's what I'll show you today, how to automate that vibe coding with Copilot. I want to use Copilot to kind of keep everything Microsoft for you in case you're limited to Copilot, like some companies are. So let's go ahead and start here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up Copilot, and ideally you would want to have visual code here. So we're going to open up visual code as well, and that's what we're going to use to run a Python program. So Python is great with data because it can run your query, and not only can it run it, but it can do something with it. So let's open up a new file, a new Python file. And I won't get into a tutorial about how to get Python installed on your Visual Code. We're just going to go ahead and run with it. So let's do this here. We have a new file, and anytime you have a new file, you have to save it. So let's hold off on that now. And we're going to come over to Copilot and we're going to start vibe coding, right? So let's say we have our query. We know we have this, but that's all we have, right? We want to tell Copilot, hey, I have this query, I have this report. I want you to run it. And then if you run it and you find something, if you find records, email it to me. And if you don't find records, email me and tell me that as well, right? Because sometimes you want to know, did I get records or did nothing show up? Let's say you can set this up to where you can look back in the past and you can say, hold on, did that report run? Because if you see no email, let's say you don't see any records here, and you set it up to not tell you that, well, that you don't have really have a paper trail for when you don't get records returned. So all of that to say, I'm going to set up this automated report to where it's going to tell me whether it sees something or it doesn't. If it does or it doesn't, it's going to email me either way to tell me, hey, here are the records that I see, or B, there are no records to report today. So the heavy lifting is really in the prompting. And then as long as you take your time and you make sure you can get everything correctly laid out for Copilot, then it should be able to build you a Python script that does what you want. And you can always iterate. And sometimes I feel it's best to create yourself a template. So let's say you start to get a prompt that really works for you. You can recycle that prompt. So just like for this query, you can pop in other queries and set up multiple of these automated reports. And this is great because instead of you having to run these queries and email them out to have your team work on them, you can just do that yourself. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. So I'm going to say, please set up a Python program that runs the below SQL Server script. If the query returns any records, please run an email. Let's word this different. Please send an Outlook email using, we want to use a certain kind of way to do Outlook, or else it's going to make you authenticate. So let's just say for now, we'll come back to this in a minute here, but email, let's stick with this. So please send an Outlook email using, we'll just say send an Outlook email if any records are returned. The subject of the email, and actually, you know what? What sometimes works best is if you put this into Notepad and really dial in the prompt first. So let's do this. And we'll do this so you can see it. If the subject of the email, not if the subject, the subject, let's do if there are records returned in the SQL output, send an email where the subject is X number of records found. And we can even say, let's call this a auto report. Auto report, and we can call this active current loans. X number of records found, where X represents the count of records found. Okay. And then if there are no records found, no records returned in the SQL output, send an email where the subject is auto report, active, current loans, no records found. So we're telling it what to do when it doesn't find anything. If this SQL script were to return nothing, I want it to still do something, which is going to be this second branch. So no records found. And let's come back up to the first one. So we'll call this branch 1, branch 2. So branch 1 is if there's records returned. Now I specified what the subject of the email should be. I didn't specify what the body of the email to be. So the body of the email should be an HTML table that shows all the records from the SQL Server output, script output. And you're not going to need to word this exactly how I'm wording it. It's going to be pretty forgiving. I would say AI, depending on which one you use. Copilot is pretty forgiving about how you word things. And like I said before, you can iterate. So this is how I'm going to say it for now. And we're going to come down to the bottom one and to say, the body of the email should say no, let's make it different than the subject. Let's say report ran successfully, did not return any records. Please email, I would say recipients recipients of the email report should are, and then you can put in your team's emails. In my case, I'm going to set up the report to come to myself. So there we go. Dot. Okay, that should work. And just so I know this works, I'm going to run a test. I'm going to send it to myself. And if I have this right, it should return to me. There we go. Okay. So I wanted to test this just to make sure I'm using the right email address. Let's copy this email address. And we can tell AI, or we're coming back to our notepad. Recipients of the email report are myself. Okay, so it's looking pretty good so far. Please set up a Python program that runs a below SQL Server script. So we're going to pop this in here. The SQL Server script is as follows. Okay, looking good. Okay, now there's some tips here. What I would recommend is to use Windows authentication, or else sometimes it's going to prompt you to put in your username and password. So I like to say use Windows authentication for this process. Okay. Okay, this is looking good. So let's do this. Let's pop this into Copilot. There's some other recommended things to put in here, but let's hold off for now. Okay, so looking pretty good. It's telling me here's the recommended Python script. Let's open up Visual Code. This is what I'm going to be using to run this Python script. I'm going to copy this. Let's see here. Okay. And server name, that's going to be whatever your server is. For me, it's going to be localhost. And let me just double check that. Yeah. Okay, localhost for me, and then no underscore. I'm going to use Lending Club Sandbox as my database. This is going to be specific to you, your database. Okay, so it has the query. It has the recipients here. It looks like it's set up to me. If records count greater than 0, trigger this branch, which is that other branch we mentioned. It's going to build the HTML table. Otherwise, it's going to give me no records. If this is not greater than 0, report ran successfully, did not return any records. Okay, and then it's going to print email sent successfully. So let's run this. It's going to ask me to save. Anytime you have a Python program here, it should ask you to save. So, okay, here's our first error message. Command dot exec in terminal icon not found. So it's as easy as running this. I'm going to pop the error message into AI, and it's going to give me recommended steps. So let's see here. I do have Python installed. So let's see here. Another way you can do this is you can do a screenshot And this is one method if you are unsure what you're seeing. And this is what I did a lot, getting these to be set up correctly. So it looks like it is saying your connection string is incomplete. Okay. So it looks to have fixed that. Let's copy this. Okay. And then server name, you do have to change. I do think it's maybe something about AI that doesn't use your server name, but you just enter it there. It'll tell you as well that you need to enter that manually. You see here, it's saying enter your server name. Okay, so let's see if we can run this again. It's still giving us this error message. Let's see if we can figure this out. So this is a VS Code issue, not a Python script. The good news is it's fixable. Let's walk through the actual causes and the fixes that work in the real world. This specific error almost always means if the extension is broken or partially uninstalled. Okay. Within VS Code, Control Shift X, we're going to look for Python. Uninstall the Microsoft Python extensions. Okay. Uninstall. Close VS Code completely. Let's save this. We call this auto report active records. Okay. It says to close this completely, keeping our script. Let's open up code again, Visual Code. Reopen VS Code, reinstall the Python extension, reload VS. This alone fixes the issue for most people. Okay. And if you can hang with this for a bit, you're going to usually get the results you want. So I already know this works. It kind of helps the morale. So let's go ahead and install Python like it's saying again. Installing, you can see right here. Okay, I think it's still going here. Okay, looks like it's done. Let's close it and reopen it one more time. We're going to reopen our Python file. Let's try and run this one more time. There we go. Okay. This is a new error message. So let's pop that into Copilot. Okay, it's still a VS Code configuration issue, not a problem with your script. Okay. Control Shift P, developer, reload, window. Hit enter. If the error persists, move to step 2. Okay. Okay, so that didn't work. Disable and re-enable the Python extension. Control Shift X again. Click the gear, disable, wait 3 seconds, enable. Okay, close it. And typically with these issues, you only have to get through them once because usually you don't have something installed correctly. It doesn't like some kind of configuration. So the good news, the bright side is that you are only having to do this once, usually, in my experience. Okay, let's try and run this one more time. Get our third troubleshooting step ready to go just in case. Okay, same issue. Reinstall the Python extension, fixes 90% of cases. If the error still happens, go to extensions, uninstall Python, which we have done before. Okay, let's give it a whirl here. Uninstall, close it, Visual Code. Let's go ahead and install Python one more time. Okay, and we saw last time it took a while, so let's give it a minute. The next option is to reselect your Python interpreter. I think last time it took maybe 4 minutes. So after this, we will try this. Select your Python interpreter. And then after that, if it doesn't work, it looks like it's going to help us try and figure out if we even have Python installed. So I'll wait for this to finish. It also wants us to reload VS Code after this. And all this is possible even if you don't know Python, like me. So I would say that is one reason why it's worth sticking with it, especially when you get it to work. It's a pretty good feeling. So we got it installed. Let's close out. We have reload VS Code as our last step. Okay, let's try and run this one more time. Fingers crossed. Python extension loading. Something's happening. Okay, another issue here. So let's go on to step 4. Control Shift P, select interpreter. Choose one that looks like that. Let's go with this one. Okay, so still not found. Let's confirm that we even have this. So it wants me to pop this into the command prompt. Let's hit enter. Yep, we do have Python installed. Next, it wants us to run this print function, unable to initialize device PRN. So let's give this to AI, let it know what we're up to. This tells me exactly what's going on. The good news is nothing wrong with Python itself. It loves to give the reassurance. The issue is simply how PowerShell interprets your command. Okay. Oh, okay. I typed it into PowerShell, not into Python. Okay. Okay. So it's telling me that we can run this. We can run this file in a different way other than hitting this play button. So let me find. I've called the Python file and it's here. Okay. Okay. So we got something here, import pandas. So we most likely don't have pandas installed. So it's giving us instructions of how to install everything we need for this program. Let's run that here and it should install everything. Okay, collecting pandas, downloading. Okay, cool. It doesn't take too long. After that, we'll try and run the file one more time. If everything looks correct, it says you should see email sent successfully. Okay, so I don't think it normally takes this long. Let me do this. I'm going to grab a screenshot of this. I'm going to show that to Copilot, and I'm also going to click on this warning sign and show a snippet of this as well. I guess you can't send two pictures at the same time. So let's stop this and we'll send this other picture. I wanted to see the warnings that we got. Oh, it finished. Okay, so you just got to be patient. Let's come back up here to run the file. It looks like it's still going through some updates. And this is good. Good to see, because if you're in a similar situation, you can see how there's a couple setup steps that you need before doing some of these things. So it is installing more things here. Okay, I think it's done here. Let's try and run our file. Okay, couple more errors. Let's go ahead and give this to Copilot. Okay. So it could be an issue with the server name. Right now I'm using localhost. I'm not sure it likes that. So Copilot is giving me ways to find out what the SQL server is. And while that thinks, it looks like our server name is localhost, but it's most likely this up here. So let me give this to Copilot. So we are using this information. So let me try and run it again. Oh, before you run it again, let's confirm SQL Server is actually running. Start. Oh, services. Let's get a SQL Server. It is running. Okay, let's try and run it one more time. We didn't actually change anything because the local host is still called localhost. And we saw that it's running again, but this time, so it wants to know this information. The SQL Server browser service is stopped. In the services window, let's put this over to the side, right click, SQL Server browser, right click, start. It's disabled. Huh. Let's switch it to automatic and see if that works. Let's tell Copilot start was disabled. I'll say we tried setting it to automatic. Ran again in VS Code, got this message. Okay, TCP/IP is disabled. Okay, it wants to go to SQL Server Configuration Manager. Huh. It doesn't look like we have that. SQL Server Configuration Manager. If you don't see it, tell me. I'll give you the alternate path. Oh. Hmm. Okay, so it likes that. Click SQL Server Network Configuration. Yep, click that. Enable the correct network protocols. On the right side, you'll see shared memory. Okay, TCP IP. Do this right click TCP IP and click enable. Okay. Named pipes enable. Okay. Okay, I'm following step 3. Restart the SQL Server service. Just doing that now. Okay. And hopefully you could skip all of this in the video and you already had all of this done automatically. Okay, let's run this. Email sent successfully. Let's mark this as read. There we go. Okay, like I said, if you have the patience to stick with this, even if you don't know what you're doing, you can come to some kind of solution. And this, without being a programmer, it would have been very difficult to achieve if not for Copilot. You can see auto report active, current loans, 10 records found. Now I have it emailing. It's going to show me the whole output, which is excellent because a lot of the times you have a reporting team which will send an Excel file, which is fine. Excel files are great if you saved them into a network shared folder so you can gain access to them. Everyone has access to them. To me, this is much faster and more streamlined. It's just, I like the idea, and maybe it's just aesthetics, maybe it's just preference. I like the idea that I can open up an email and see immediately whether there's records there or not. And you can also program this to attach an Excel file, attach maybe also display this output, but also attach a file that they can open. You can program it to save in a network folder. So even if you are emailing it, you are also archiving it in a folder where your team can access this. So next time, I'm going to show you how to set this up so that it runs automatically without you doing anything. We're going to be using Task Scheduler. We're going to set up the Python programs in Task Scheduler. And you don't have to know what any of that means right now, but all you have to know is that this email will be automatic. You won't have to go into Visual Code and run anything. It'll just pop up in the morning. You'll log onto your computer. Boom, you got this report. It's already emailed to you and your team. You can change the recipients as well here. So thanks for sticking with me. I know there was a lot of pain points there, but we got through it. Thanks, guys.